Introducing Filmore Slim, the stoniest stonefly to ever glide across a river. Today, we're gonna tie one up. So grab a cup of chill as we sit back and go on the Vise with the FlyOlderGuy. And on the Vise, we have a size 6 2X dry fly hook. And I'm gonna load up the bobbin with a UTC 140 in brown. That's a nice thick thread, and we're going to start it off back in the back end of the hook, trim off the tag, and we're going to work that thread up, building up a decent thread base for us to dub over. Going to leave that thread just about behind the hook eye, just maybe 1 or 2 eye lengths back. Grabbing some brown dubbing here. This is it's a really buggy brown dubbing, nice synthetic dubbing, and a good clump. We're gonna really dub the whole length of the hook shank here. And tighten up that noodle. Don't go crazy because it's a relatively long noodle, and I'm gonna stop and tighten it up along the way. So, getting that started right there. You see, tightening it up along the way. And doesn't always want to cooperate, but it's on the thread, so you can really just give it a wrap and then it'll get itself going. So like I said, a couple more little tufts of dubbing on here. I want to keep adding as we go. This is a big clump, because I'm going to cover the whole piece here. So working our way back, tightening as we go. The dubbing is going to help us really grip that foam to the hook shank. The dubbing will also give the bottom a nice, buggy look. Really is going to help the fly, so we're grabbing even more dubbing, adding that on. We really want to make sure that we cover the body, give it that grip, because this foam will slip. The foam wants to slip around as much as I will, secure it with hard, tight wraps. It's really the best thing is to have some nice dubbing or some other material for it to grip onto on the hook shank so it doesn't slide around. So we're getting to the back here, and we want to build up a bulbous back. The point of that is for the tail section to point upwards. So grabbing a little bit more dubbing, and we're going to dub it on right there, nice and tight. Start to build up this little bulbous back portion right at the bend. Get a little loose, it's all right. Hold it up, wrap it over, and you can see how there's even a little bit of a bump back there, and a well that will be able to pull that foam into, to give it that angle that tail upwards. So we're just going to give them a little haircut here, because that dubbing is very wild and buggy, but it looks buggy right there. Look at that. So here comes the foam. We'll give the foam a little trim, give it like a little tail shape, a little triangular, and I try to round off the edge a little bit at the tip. Just a little bit of a rounding, not crazy. And then we're going to tie it in. And we're looking at about 3/4 of a shank length for the tail. And it's not super long, but it's long. And then with this bulbous back end, it's going to drive the tail down. So you see we got a few tight wraps on that tail. Did a couple in the front, And that should lock it in pretty nice. That is nice. And the angle, it's angled upwards. That way when a fish comes to get it, that tail isn't going to get it pushed out of the way. We're going to advance the thread. Decent amount, I'd say about a quarter of the way back from the hook eye. Again, a few nice tight wraps, and then a couple in the front, and then back over the back nice and tight. And that's going to lock that foam in place. So now we'll grab ourselves some of these rubber legs, these silly legs, an appropriate color. I like this green and brown. And I'm going to trim off 3. And that should do it for the Stonefly. And I tie my legs in a little differently. We're going to loop it over on the outside. Just let it sit secure on top of the body there. And then grab the other leg and just do a little pinch wrap to wrap them both on at the same time. A couple wraps around to secure them, situate them. And they already have that nice little buggy angle to them, right? And then just to keep them spread out a little bit, I'm going to grab a little bit more dubbing. I'm going to dub that on. And then give that a few wraps, and that will help kind of keep them separated. Also going to give it a little bit of a buggy look, help give it a more natural look with the dubbing covering the thread wraps and everything. So wrap that in, looking good. We'll just sweep those legs back a little bit, give it a couple wraps in the front, pull the foam back, and then advance the thread to create the head section. And you can see I'm leaving room back there for the hook eye. Looking good. We'll give it another couple tight wraps, pull it back, wrap right up against there. Another couple tight wraps, and that's going to really lock that foam in place. Now that the head section is locked in, we'll grab this last rubber leg, and we're going to secure that here in the front by the head section. So pinch wrap to get it in, and then it's like a loose cross wrap to get it locked in and angled nicely there. Around the front, around the back cross wrap. Get that locked in now. Couple in the front. This is where my legs are a little different than everybody else's. I pull those middle legs over the front legs, and now I'm going to lock those middle legs in the front of the head, and those are going to become our front legs. But that now will angle all the legs into like the proper orientation. So we'll lock those down towards the front. Just going to tweak them out a little bit, and you can see how those, what were the middle legs now, have come up to lock those other legs into a decent position now as the new middle legs. They do get a little funky and tough to work with, but you have several opportunities to just orient them properly. So I'm going to throw a little bit more dubbing on, again, just to separate those two leg sections and give it more of a natural look. Take away from all the thread that we're using, right? You can see that right there. It's looking good. It's already got the legs in the right angles that you want. Now, this is just some flash. There's some crystal scale. And I'm like crystal flash. I'm just going to double it over. And then we're going to tie that in with like a little bit of a pinch wrap. And then another wrap. And then I'm going to pull it back to sort of create a shiny underwing. I want to make sure it's locked down. And you can see it's a little tough working around the rubber legs. But I like to leave them long because I'm going to knot them at the end. So they stay long now. So I get the thread towards the back section, lock down the flash. See that? And then advance the thread again. Now I caught that leg. I didn't want to do that, but it's not the end of the world. You see, it really didn't change the angle on it much. Now, to create the wing, what we are doing is we are taking the back feather from, I'm just using this cape. This is a gray cape, and these are the back feathers that are a little bit longer or fluffier. They don't really work so well for a dry hackle. So we're going to take that, fan it out. I'm going to grab some packing tape, and you're going to pull off a strip about as long as the feather. Lay that down, sticky side up. Grab the feather and then fan it out and place it down on top of the tape. Get another piece of tape, cut that off, and place that on top. So now it sticks a little bit, you peel it off. And now we have a feather inside of the tape, basically a plastic feather that we can trim and shape into a wing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it off the fluffy bottom end, cut off the skinny top end, and you have enough to make 2 wings right there. So we'll cut that down the middle, and then we can begin to shape it into our wing. We're just rounding off both sides, taking off that hard straight edge over there and trimming out that stem a little bit, rounding it up on the top. Looking pretty good, a little bit more shaping to be done. This is, you can prepare as many of these in advance as you want. It's a good way to make a lot of different wings too. So, I've got it pretty much the way I want it. I want to have a little bit of triangular end to tie in. And then we will cut in 2/3 of the way, but then leave a nice tab for the thread to sit in and grab with. So in comes our wing, and we put the thread in between, in the middle of those 2 halves, and that's going to help lock that in. It's not going anywhere now. Give it a couple of wraps. 1, 2, 3, and you can see it's already in. It's not going, but you don't want it to go anywhere. So we really, look at that profile. You really lock it in. Stretch out the legs, move them around a little bit, and we're gonna create the front section. Now these first 2 legs are gonna be held within this front head section. So I'm going to take my time and get it situated properly. Pull that foam back. Make sure we have enough hook eye exposed. That's what I'm doing here. Pulling it back. Checking hook eye. We're good. Make sure we're in between the 2 front legs. And then wrap down hard and create this little head section. This is what I was referring to earlier when I said there'll be time to get all the legs situated and oriented properly. And that's kind of what we're doing now. So you're going to take a little extra time just to make sure you got the right legs in the right place before you lock the foam down. But locking the foam down is what's going to lock the legs in. So now we're working on the middle section, which is going to lock in the middle leg. So the first couple wraps to create the middle section, I'm pulling them back, and then I'm going to pull them forward, and then that's going to have those legs kind of sitting sort of in the middle. There is a little wrestling match with the legs, so you can see me making sure that middle leg is forward and that the thread is going behind it now. So I'm keeping up against my finger and sliding the thread in between the 2 of them. And then I just break down and pull the legs forward then switch hands with the thread and get a good wrap in there. And that's probably the best way to do it. Now once that's locked in, getting the legs situated again. They are very long, so it does get a little bit troublesome. And we can see how that wing, you see the wing is laying a little flat, so I'm going to need to get that tied up so it's secure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab everything, the underwing flash and the wing, and kind of post it to that front piece of foam with a few posting wraps. 3 or 4 posting wraps here, nice and tight. And you see that? It's angling it up. It's grabbing it and pulling it up. So one more around and then down. Advance the thread back up through the legs, up to the head section. Sweep the legs back. And then a couple wraps right behind the hook eye to get it ready for the whip finish. I'm going to grab the whip finish tool, give it quite a few good turns under here. It's a little hard to get it under, but once you get it looped, you can just I give it 6 turns here to lock it in nice. Don't really want to go anywhere. So 5, 6, pop that off. Come in and trim out the thread nice and close. And it's got a great look. You know, those legs are crazy long. So it's time to get out the scissor and trim up some stuff. We're going to trim off the underwing flash. Looking pretty good. And then it might be a little long. I'm going to trim off this foam, trim it down. I like to trim it down to like a little triangle shape right above that head section. That's going to also keep that wing secure. That flash does look a little bit long, so I don't want to hang it over the tail, so we'll trim it up a little bit more. That actually looks really good. Fluff it out a little bit. It's pretty nice. And now we will get to work on these legs. We're going to knot up the legs. So the only legs we really have to knot are the front 2 and the back 2. Those middle legs we don't need to put knots in. The way they sit should just be the right orientation without any kind of knots to give them that bend, that joint bend. So I'm going to tie some knots. Just one knot, and I pull it up close. Again, you've seen some other Stonefly patterns where they're using 2 pieces of rubber for each leg. I mean, I guess they're just trying to sell you more rubber legs. This really is enough to do the job. So knots in those front legs, and you can see all I do is just pull the knot a little bit more. If it's not the right angle, then you just spin the knot forward or spin it backwards, and then tighten it at the right place when you get it into the right orientation. So just one more knot to go on this bottom back leg. Looking pretty good. It's angled the right way. See, look, boom, tighten, loosen, tighten. Looking pretty nice. It does look pretty nice right there. You do just want to trim them up, and they will be ready to go. Now, I don't really have any specific length for these legs. It's whatever looks natural. You know what I mean? You know, you look at it, you can tell if it looks good or if it looks a little weird. Maybe that's a little too long, looking a little weird, a little funky. So we trim them all to an appropriate length, we'll say. Get that middle one on the far side, trim that last back one, but as you can see, that looks pretty buggy to me. That looks pretty natural. That's a nice looking Stonefly right there. You can tweak the wing around a little bit, but that's got it. That's got it right there. Filmore Slim. Quite the character. Quite the Stonefly. Well, that's going to do it for this tie. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, stay fly.